The day Hope Logan opened Liam Spencer's emergency will, she thought she was prepared. She thought nothing could hurt worse than knowing the father of her daughter, the man she had loved, lived with, lost, and reclaimed again and again, was dying. She was wrong. It wasn't the clause about his assets. It wasn't the medical directives. It wasn't even his final wishes for his memorial. It was the line she almost missed, buried in legal language under guardianship provisions, in the event of my death. Primary guardianship of Kelly Spencer and Beth Spencer is to be granted to Steffy Forrester. Should Steffy be deemed unavailable or unable, secondary guardianship shall be transferred to Carter Walton. Hope's heart stopped. Carter Walton. Not her. Not the mother of Beth. Not the woman who had raised her, fought for her, given up everything for her. Not even as a backup. Liam had chosen Steffy first, a painful but unsurprising move. But Carter second. The man Hope had been about to marry. The man who had stood by her side for months, promising stability, family, clarity. Now revealed to be not her partner but Liam's contingency plan. Her replacement. She dropped the document. Her hands shook. She paced the room. She tried to tell herself there had to be a mistake, that it was legal boilerplate, that Liam had written the will in a rush and meant to fix it later. But as the hours passed, silence answered back. Liam didn't call. Carter didn't explain. And when the media got a hold of the leaked document thanks to an anonymous source inside Spencer Publications, headlines weren't kind. Bride not even named in groom's will, Hope Logan passed over twice for Steffy and Carter. Carter Walton, unexpected father figure or Spencer family pawn. The internet lit up with memes, podcast speculation, and brutal commentary. Photos of Hope crying outside Brooke's house trended for 72 hours. Social media turned Carter into a punchline, Hope into a tragedy, and the wedding into a farce. Carter tried to explain. He begged for a private conversation. He said he didn't know Liam had named him, that he was just as blindsided as she was, that maybe Liam, in his final moments, had wanted someone stable, someone legal-minded, someone who could bridge the gap between the Spencers and Forresters. But Hope couldn't hear him. She was already drowning. She canceled the wedding indefinitely, not postponed, not rescheduled. She called every vendor, closed every account, packed up the dress, and disappeared into her mother's estate without answering another call. Brooke tried to comfort her, but Hope didn't want comfort. She wanted to understand how her leaf so carefully rebuilt had shattered again with 6 words in a will. Meanwhile, across town, Thomas Forrester heard the news and recognized what others missed. This was his moment. Hope was untethered. Her faith in Liam, Carter, and the Spencer legacy had fractured. She was raw, vulnerable, but not broken beyond reach. Thomas didn't gloat. He didn't barge in. He waited. He knew Hope well enough to let her find him. He simply made himself visibly at the office, in meetings, quietly stepping back into the circle that once revolved around her. And when they crossed paths, he offered only honesty. "I know what it's like to feel like a backup plan," he told her. "You never were to me." But not everyone in Thomas's world saw it that way. Douglas Forrester had been watching closely. The boy, now older, sharper, and far more observant than people realized, had long considered Carter a quiet hero. Carter had stood up for him when Thomas was in the dark. Carter had helped shield him from legal battles, made time to teach him chess, and been a calm force when the storms around his mother and father never stopped. Now, watching the world laugh at Carter and watching his father inch closer to Hope again, Douglas felt something new, pity. Not for Thomas, but for the man no one had expected to be loyal, yet always was. Douglas visited Carter one afternoon, unannounced. "I know you didn't mean to hurt her," he said. Carter sat in stunned silence. "You're a good man. You were just in the wrong place." Then Douglas left, saying nothing more. But the words stuck. They haunted Carter far more than the headlines. Back at Brooke's estate, the storm outside mirrored the one inside. Hope sat alone in the empty living room, the fire long gone out, the dress she never wore still hanging in its plastic cover. She held the ring. Not the one Liam gave her years ago. Not the one Thomas once offered. This one was new, meant for a life beyond the war between Spencers and Forresters. But now it felt like a lie. Rain pounded the windows. Lightning split the sky. And as she stared at the symbol of yet another love lost to legacy, power, and misplaced loyalty, she whispered a question she had never allowed herself to say aloud. Am I destined to be trapped in this cycle forever? Spencer. Forrester. Spencer. Forrester. Back and forth. Two dynasties. Two men. Two families tearing her in opposite directions. Always torn. Never chosen. Hope rose from the couch. She walked barefoot through the silent house, past photos of weddings, holidays, magazine shoots, images of a life curated for tabloids but cracked underneath. She paused at the doorway, still holding the ring, her eyes red, her heart numb. In that moment, she didn't know where to go. Not to Thomas. Not to Carter. Not to Liam. She didn't want promises. She didn't want apologies. She wanted out. Out of the loop. Out of the triangle. Out of the script that had turned her into the prize everyone passed around. But the world outside wasn't waiting. At Forrester Creations, Rich called an emergency meeting. The scandal surrounding the will had spilled into business. Investors were pulling out of hope for the future. Sponsors demanded answers. Even Brooke had started receiving calls questioning Hope's mental health. Ridge, ever the strategist, saw two options: rebrand or retreat. Thomas offered a third: rebuild. Let me take over Hope for the future, he said. Let her disappear. Heal. I'll keep it alive until she's ready, Brooke objected. Steffi remained neutral. Rich approved. And just like that, Hope's brand her name was handed back to the very man who had once nearly destroyed it. Outside of business, Sheila Carter, fresh from her clandestine partnership with Bill Spencer, watched it all unfold with eerie silence. Luna Nozawa, ever the wild card, re-emerged at a press event, offering vague condolences about Liam while subtly hinting at a new direction for Spencer Publications' digital expansion. Whispers started to swirl. Was Luna now aligning with the Spencer board? Did Bill know? Did Will? And what would it mean for Beth if Luna's influence reached deeper into Spencer territory? Carter, meanwhile, began pulling back from the spotlight. He returned to the courthouse, took on pro bono cases, volunteered. Anything to escape the echo of Hope's silence. But the pain lingered. So did the ring he never got to place on her hand. And the understanding that for all his restraint, all his good intentions, he had been cast as an intruder in a war he never wanted to fight. And Hope. On that rainy night, in the quiet of her family estate, she walked to the garden. Alone. Barefoot. Still clutching the ring. And for the first time in her life, she didn't choose. She simply let go. It began on a night like any other in Los Angeles, warm wind rolling in from the Pacific, children tucked safely into bed, and the calm of Cliff House wrapping itself around Steffy Forrester like a fragile promise of peace. But peace had long since abandoned the world of the bold and the beautiful, and as the moon crested over the waves, so did the unthinkable. Luna Nozawa, once a curious, damaged girl with too many secrets and too little guidance, crossed a line from obsession into violence. The night she stole a Glock from the Spencer Guard armory, she sealed her fate in the fates of everyone tangled in her unraveling. She didn't knock. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten with words anymore. She slipped through the back door like a ghost, weapon tucked inside her coat, steps silent on the tile, her breath shallow. Her mind spinning with visions of betrayal, of being cast out, of being ignored, erased, forgotten. Her grudge against Steffi had mutated beyond reason. It had become religion. In Luna's broken logic, Steffi was the sun around which all injustice revolved. Steffi sensed it before she saw it cold in the air, the wrongness. She moved quickly. She didn't scream. She grabbed Kelly and Hayes and ushered them into the panic room built years ago after another threat. The lock sealed with a click. Her children were safe. But Finn was in the kitchen, prepping bottles, back turned, unaware. The first shot came with no warning. A burst of thunder. Wood and drywall exploded. Finn hit the ground. The bullet tore through the wall, kissed his shoulder, blood spraying across the cabinets as he fell hard, breath ripped from his lungs. Steffy screamed his name but didn't run to reach for the hidden panel near the stairs, pressing the emergency signal that would ping Ridge, Bill, and the private security network both families had maintained since Sheila's last rampage. Luna stepped into the hallway, gun raised. Her hand trembled, her eyes wild, disconnected. She took everything, Luna whispered. She always takes everything. She stepped forward. Steffi stood between the hallway and the safe room, refusing to move. Her husband was bleeding. Her children were behind that wall. She wouldn't give ground. Outside, alarms screamed to life. Ridge, mid-meeting at Forrester International, received the encrypted alert and immediately mobilized the Forrester Private Security Force. He gave one order: contain the threat. Do not kill her. Meanwhile, Bill Spencer, watching live surveillance from his office, recognized Luna's face as she entered the house and didn't hesitate. Lock her out, he barked. Every card, every account, every ounce of digital excess gutted. Now, within moments, Luna's digital footprint began vanishing. Her phone died. Her GPS froze. Bank accounts blinked to zero. But she was already inside. Steffi didn't move. Luna stepped closer. The second shot came faster, with more fury. But it never touched Steffi, because Sheila Carter was already there. How she knew, no one could explain. Whether it was intuition, timing, or something darker, Sheila had entered through the front door only minutes before and watched everything unfold from the shadows. As the second bullet fired, she moved with the speed of a predator. She didn't hesitate. She didn't speak. She threw herself in front of Steffi, absorbing the full impact of the shot in her shoulder. Blood sprayed across the room. Sheila fell to one knee, gasping, eyes wide with shock but alive. Steffi stared, frozen. Luna stood stunned, as if unsure what had just happened. The woman she considered a monster had just saved the life of her most hated enemy. And the cameras caught everything. Security footage, cell phone recordings from nearby beach houses, body cams on Ridge's arriving men within minutes. The video was viral. Sheila Carter, drenched in her own blood, shielding Steffi Forrester from an armed gunwoman. The internet exploded. Shiley Savetsky trended globally within the hour. Cable news and gossip sites spun out of control. For decades, Sheila had been synonymous with chaos, violence, and death. Now she was a savior, an anti-hero, a woman with a gunshot wound and a look of defiance that shattered everything the world thought they knew about her. But inside Cliff House, the scene remained raw, brutal, unresolved. Luna dropped the weapon. Her hands shook, tears falling, reality crashing in. Finn, bleeding but conscious, crawled from behind the counter. Ridge's men stormed the house, guns drawn but disciplined. No one fired. No one spoke. Luna went to her knees, eyes locked on the blood pooling beneath Sheila. I didn't mean to shoot her, she muttered. I was aiming for Steffi, it didn't matter. She was taken into custody immediately, cuffed and escorted past a waiting ambulance, news drones, and the flashing horror of her own collapse now forever immortalized in 4K. Sheila, shock wearing off, refused a stretcher. Take care of Finn first, she growled. That's my son, and for the first time, no one argued. Steffi didn't speak. Not to the paramedics. Not to Ridge. Not to the press. She sat beside Finn, gripping his hand, watching Sheila across the room, barely able to process the lines that had been redrawn in a single shot. Back at Spencer Publications, Bill stared at the footage in disbelief. He hated Sheila, feared her, swore never to let her near his family again. But now, he owed her. That debt, unwanted and unavoidable, shifted his entire position. Sheila had done what no security team, no protocol, no alliance could do. She had stopped Luna. Not with a word, not with a threat, but with blood. Public opinion split like lightning. Half the world cheered, half recoiled. Some called it redemption. Others called it manipulation. Pundits argued for hours, was Sheila a changed woman or just playing the ultimate long game? Ridge refused to speak publicly. Brooke insisted the act didn't erase a lifetime of damage. Hope, still reeling from her own private heartbreak, simply whispered to the press, saving a life doesn't erase stealing so many others. But the footage was undeniable. The blood on Sheila's blouse became a symbol. The act became legend. And Luna, once a tragic figure trapped by legacy and trauma, became something else, the new villain. The girl who brought a gun into a home filled with children. The girl who aimed to kill. As Luna sat in a holding cell, her world crashing, the silence around her grew suffocating. Her accounts gone. Her allies gone. Even Remy, once sympathetic, refused to see her. Poppy refused to comment. Lee called for psychiatric evaluation and prosecution. No one came to defend her. No one stood by her side. Except, possibly, Sheila. A week later, a letter arrived at Luna's cell. No name. No return address. Just one sentence. Sometimes the world needs a villain to remember what a real monster looks like. And with that, the stage shifted again. Because in the bold and the beautiful, no act is ever final, no villain ever truly defeated, and no redemption ever free of blood.